Title: Love at First Joke. Description: Alice is a fun and outgoing young woman who faces her day-to-day life with a positive attitude but with a somewhat disastrous love life. When her brother organizes a party at his house, Alice has no idea that she will meet Henry, a boy with a completely different attitude than hers. What begins as a series of jokes and male understood, it will end up becoming a love story that neither of them expected. Between laughter, challenges, and absurd situations, Alice will discover that love can be born where she least expects it. The party and the quiet boy. Alice had always been the queen of parties. Her extroverted personality and sense of humor made any social gathering a success. Since they were little, jokes to absurd anecdotes, Alice was the life of any party. However, despite her success at parties, her love life was quite the opposite. She had had several relationships that ended. They quickly fell out of favor, generally because he failed to connect emotionally with people, or simply because he didn't know when to stop making jokes. It was an ordinary Saturday when his hermano, Tom, asked him to come to his birthday party. Alice, enthusiastic, immediately accepted. It wasn't just a birthday party, but a party where, according to Tom, a lot of handsome and single guys. Alice put on her best dress and prepared to be the life of the party. The party began like all the others. Laughter, music, and a lot of people at her house. Alice already is. He was telling jokes and receiving a lot of attention when he noticed a boy in the corner, away from the crowd. He was sitting with his arms crossed, observing the event with an expression. His gaze was neither bored nor annoyed. It simply seemed as if he were in his own world. Curious, Alice approached him, ready to take him out of his bubble. "What are you doing here so quiet? Are you bored with the party, or are you waiting for someone to play a big joke on you?" he asked with a playful smile. The boy looked up, surprised by the intrusion, but quickly, and he offered a small smile. Alice realized that she wasn't going to get far if she didn't change her approach, so she decided to start with something less direct. "I'm Alice," she said, extending her hand. "And you are Rez, the mysterious boy from the party?" "Henry," he replied, taking her hand firmly, but without much emotion. Alice didn't know if his answer was a good omen or if she had just made a completely unnecessary question. But he decided to go ahead. "Wow, and what brings you to this epic party? Do you have any superpower that allows you to remain in the corner without anyone noticing you?" Henry smiled with some amusement in his eyes, but still maintained his serious tone. "I am not a fan of big parties. I prefer to be quiet, read a good book, or listen to music." Alice no P. To avoid laughing. Henry was not the type of boy who got carried away by the atmosphere, and that intrigued her even more. "So you don't like parties because you prefer to be alone with a book?" said Alice, joking. "Well, what if I played a joke on you to make you laugh? I promise it doesn't involve cakes in the face." Henry raised an eyebrow, clearly unconvinced. "I'm not very easy to make laugh, but I will try." Alice stared at him, assessing the situation. Then, a silly idea occurred to her. She approached him, lowered her voice, and whispered in his ear. "Well, if you don't make me laugh, I'm going to make that everyone puts adhesive tape on your face. And I don't mean a normal tape, but one of those big ones that leave marks for hours." Henry couldn't help but let out a little laugh. For some reason, Alice had managed to break her serious facade a little. "You're shameless, aren't you?" said Henry, laughing. Alice smiled, satisfied with the small advance. She didn't think a joke tonta could have made him laugh, but apparently she had succeeded. Joke after joke. The party continued, and Alice could not help but continue making jokes to Henry. Every time she did, she managed. Let's see how his serious expression softened a little more. Although at first he was not very receptive, Henry began to share his own jokes, although in a more subtle way. As they advanced, the conversations between them became more fluid. Alice discovered that, although Henry wasn't the type of boy who would normally go out partying, his dry sense of humor and his inty intelligence captivated her. For his part, Henry realized that Alice was not only an extroverted girl, but that she had a great capacity to make him feel comfortable. During a particular joke, Alice threw a pillow at his face, without thinking. But, to her surprise, Henry dodged it with such agility that it almost seemed like a rehearsed choreography. Alice was completely amazed. That was impressive. Are you part of a ninja school or something like that? He said, laughing. Nothing like that. Just a good reflex, he replied, smiling slightly. The night ended, but not the connection between Alice and Henry. Although Henry wasn't the type of boy Alice would normally have noticed, there was something about him that made her feel comfortable. An unexpected love. The weeks passed, and what began as a series of jokes and misunderstandings began to transform into something much more serious. Alice realized that although Henry was not the extroverted and boisterous boy that normal mente habría elegido, what had begun as a friendship full of jokes was becoming a relationship full of complicity. Henry, for his part, began to enjoy A's company, lice more than he would have imagined. Although at first he was skeptical about her jokes, now he looked forward to them. There was something in the way Alice made him laugh that made him feel more alive and what began as a couple of silly jokes soon became something much deeper. One day, while they were sitting in the park, Henry turned to Alice with a G smile. Nuina, do you know something, Alice? I'm not the type of guy who falls in love easily, but with you, everything is different. You not only make me laugh, but you make me feel comfortable being myself. Alice looked at him, surprised by the sincerity of his words. Well, what can I say? I'm not one of those who fall in love at first sight either, but I'm glad my jokes had a positive effect. Ambos se rieron. And although Henry's words were serious, the relaxed atmosphere between them made everything seem more natural. Alice realized that what had begun as a series of BR, Omas, had given way to a solid relationship based on fun, respect, and above all, love. And the relationship of Alice and Henry continued to flourish. The jokes became an integral part of their life together, and although they were never a conventional couple, their love grew through laughter, misunderstandings, and a complicity that only they understood. Sometimes, love does not arrive in the manner more predictable, but as Alice and Henry learned, the best love stories usually begin with a good joke. If you like this story, subscribe and comment